What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. So of course, we have the new Monkey D. Luffy Super Sugo Fest character that just dropped in the Egghead Final Phase Super Sugo Fest, and we're going to be making a little bit of a showcase here, discussing his abilities and showing off some big damage towards the end of this video as well, so definitely stay tuned. But we're going to go through all of his abilities, kind of break it down, and make it a bit more visually easier to understand exactly what he's doing. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. Let's talk about this captain ability, because his captain ability is pretty good, all things considered, giving you that 2 turns of cooldown to basically everything. Versus effect, switch gauge, and cooldown at the start of the quest. Exceptional ability to have. He then gives that 6 times attack boost to both quick and powerhouse characters, and then also provides a 1.35 times HP boost to those characters. But despite all of that, he does still give every other character a 4.5 times attack boost, so even if they're not quick or powerhouse, you're still going to get something out of them, which is nice. Making quick recovery and tandem slots beneficial is always a nice touch, and then also the added utility of removing 10 turns of special bind off of himself. And of course, there is another layer of utility, which we'll get to very shortly. It then says that if you perform excellent with your action special so long as Luffy is your captain. This ability does not work when he is your friend captain, it only works when he is the captain in the top right position. He will go ahead and give a buff of 1.3 times boost to Straw Hat, Giant, Logia, and Paramecia characters, which essentially makes those quick powerhouse units that are also of that same tag, allow them to be a 7.8 times attack boost to those units, which is absurd, super high damage. He then will also state that if you have 4 or more characters on your team that are either Egghead or Land of Wano arc, he will give 10 turns of special reverse resistance to your crew. So having like special bind resistance on himself, which he in turn allows us to remove it with his special, and then also having the ability to resist special reverse. It's a great combination that this character has in his entirety. And then there's the really nice ability at the bottom, which is like the unique ability as to why like he is considered a Super Sugo Fest exclusive. You know, typically Super Sugos have some unique ability that makes them better than normal legends. And this is his really cool ability that he has that no other character has. Essentially, anytime you're given an attack or an orb boost, whether it be from a support, from your special, from the enemy, as you see in this content, when this enemy gave us a 1.1 times attack and orb boost, the Luffy captain will trigger, allowing that buff to be buffed twice, and also amplifying that buff by 1.2 times. And because we do run, like you could potentially run double Luffy, double quick Luffy, and that can actually occur twice. So it will allow it to be buffed twice, that doesn't stack, but then multiplying that ability by 1.2 from one Luffy, and then 1.2 from another Luffy. I really like his captain ability, and I think that this is going to allow him to be used actually quite a lot moving forward, and also the fact that he's a powerhouse unit rather than free spirit does allow him to be used in a lot of different ways. The only thing that is kind of like the glaring issue is that team building can definitely be a problem, because he predominantly wants to run quick and powerhouse units, but there also can be some issues having to fulfill the tags whilst also bringing units that are quick or powerhouse, right? That's the only real issue that I see there. So moving past that, if you do use him as a captain, you get access to the EX Super, which is a pretty good ability. You do need 2 of the following units, which is essentially any Straw Hat, Jewelry Bonnie, any Vegapunk character, as well as S-Snake, Sentomaru, Kuma, Ace, Sabo, Garp, Makino, Shanks, Dory, Broggy, Kashi, Oimo. The fact that Boa Hancock isn't on this list, but S-Snake is, I think is really bizarre, considering the recent release of the quick Boa Hancock definitely should have been on this list. Would have made a really nice touch there. The EX Super Special is interesting. It does give you the 4 turn of Super Switch removal, which is fine, I guess. He also changes his own slot into Tandem through Super Block, which is quite good. He will also go ahead and buff Chain Locks by 0.25, and then gives a 2 times advantageous class effect to Powerhouse, which is going to be very good in any modern content. In obviously old content, advantageous class effect isn't really a thing, but of course, a lot of modern content, you're going to be dealing with that. This can essentially just double your damage for free, which is very strong. Moving on from that, let's talk about this special ability, because Luffy's special ability does have a lot going for him. He does have the 10 turns of special bind removal, which synergizes perfectly with using him as a captain. He does also have a crewmate ability to remove special bind, which means you can use him as a sub or as a captain to remove that effect. He also adds 5 turns of tap timing bonus damage, that 80 times tap timing. That effect by itself is pretty bad, like who cares? The only reason it kind of exists is allows other characters to trigger their abilities, which is so good. He also gives you the territory, he gives you the very good orb boost up to 4.25, which in turn works very well with his captain ability, which amplifies that effect by 1.2. With double Luffy, you can buff it by 1.2 even further. And then he also provides you with an ability of a 3.25 chain boundary, so long as you do have 5 or more of Straw Hat Giant, Logia, or Paramecia on your crew, which is actually a little difficult to fulfill. Having to build around that can be kind of frustrating. Even if you don't fulfill that condition of having 5 of those tags on the crew, you do still get a chain boundary, but it's only a 2.5 chain boundary, and it's only for 1 turn rather than 3.25 for 2 turns, right? This clip that you're seeing on screen right now is where we can actually apply some really big damage. And before Luffy even came out, I did make a video kind of discussing how this character was supposed to work with some of the pre-existing characters that we have access to. Now, a lot of people may ask, why are we not using Luffy as the captain? It's mainly just because of the way that Frankie works. Frankie has a very interesting set of skills. If I actually had access to the legend Brook that came out with Frankie to attach as a support to Frankie, I think we could probably make the switch so that we could put Frankie as a sub, mainly just because we want to use his special earlier, and then we want to use it again before we do our major burst turn. That is actually important because Frankie on his secondary special launch gives you set target status, which is just 1.75 times free damage, right? And then when we activate his special initially, we get that conditional boost, and it does last for 2 turns, but with Boa Hancock captain, she does extend conditional boosts by 1 turn, which is a major deal. And by using Luffy as a sub, when we activate his special, it's going to allow Hancock to launch twice, which is important because when Hancock launches her special, she doesn't, well, she gives you double stacking conditional boosts, but she does that after, like, it's really weird with the way that she works. She gives you a conditional boost, and then she also does double stacking, but because Frankie's conditional boost was there initially, it means we actually have to activate her special a secondary time so that her conditional boost against paralyzed enemies can trigger. Launching Boa twice is also important because it does give the final tap bonus damage. I believe every time we launch it, it's like a 30% buff to the final tap, and Frankie's final tap is very strong, and it is important that we get his final tap, his super class, because his super class does give himself a super bomb slot, and in order for Frankie to use his final tap, he actually requires a bomb, super bomb, or a G slot, I believe, to use that final tap, and it is very good, so it's important. In order to get it though, you need like 5 Straw Hats and like Vegapunk characters. It's really hard to do. Alternatively, you can actually get below 25% HP, which we can do via the effect of Jinbei, and that actually allows the super class to trigger, so it's actually important that all these characters are synergizing very well together. The Sanji and Zoro character on the team are essentially only here because we can use them along the super tandem chain for Luffy, and they also inflict increased damage taken, which is just even more damage from that, but also it buffs the weakness effect that the Jinbei actually applies to the enemy. So we'll see how things go when we go up against the super boss that's going to come out inevitably this month. I don't think this is going to be the go-to team, but just the synergy between these units is just amazing. So I really enjoyed using this one, and you'll see that this team doesn't even have a color affinity boost. Like, you could chuck a random support on here to get like an additional bonus buff, but the fact that this team doesn't even have a color affinity boost, and it does the damage that it does, and all of the characters on this team are potential ability 1. So all of the rush, the tandem boosts, the final tap, everything is level 1. And this is the damage that you're seeing here. So hopefully you enjoyed this video though. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.